Buckle up, sports fanatics. This is the Sports Chasers Podcast, your HQ for in-depth sports talk. Join host Kevin L. Warren and crew as they dissect the hottest stories, ignite debates, and bring you closer to the action. From locker room whispers to expert takes, we cover it all. It's game time, so strap in and grab a drink. The Sports Chasers Podcast starts right now.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's happening, everybody? It's another edition of the Sports Chasers Podcast. It's the interviews editions of the Sports Chasers Podcast, where we come in and we talk to all those people that are important, have a great story, and they absolutely have something of substance and things to say when it comes to the world of sports. And today we have a great treat for you today. But before we do that, let's meet the crew. We only have one crew member with us this afternoon. We got the DA. DA, what's happening to you, bro? What's happening? How are you today? DA, you look like you're frozen. Yeah, sounds like you're frozen. Well, as DA tries to work that out, as he tries to work that, make sure you like, click, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you also hit the bells for all the notifications and all those in the sound of my voice. On the podcast side, y'all do what? Give me that 5-star review for the Sports Chasers Podcast. 5-star review. DA, can you hear me now? DA cannot hear us now, so we will go on. Let me introduce the guest here. We got our guest. He is, we're proud to welcome Mr. Tyler Kania, a man of many talents and incredible perseverance. Hailing from Columbia, Connecticut, Tyler is a rugby player, coach, cybersecurity, salesman, cyber currency entrepreneur, stonesman, painter, and writer. His journey is one of both triumph and adversity, as he has battled bipolar disorder while overcoming the rare and devastating injury of ruptured patella tendon, not once, but twice, a testament to his grit and determination. An avid reader and writer, Tyler's first book, The Manic With No Knees, is a powerful and introspective memoir that offers an unfiltered look into the depths of his mental illness and personal struggles. His stories is one of, y'all know it on the Sports Chasers, my favorite word, resilience, passion, and self-discovery, making him an inspiring guest for today's conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I want y'all to welcome our guest for today, Mr. Tyler Kania. Tyler, what's up, brother? How are you?
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
So it is good to see you today, bro. And I'm glad that you're here. The DA, he should be back. He's having a little technical difficulties, man. But thank you for joining. Thank you for connecting with us here on the Sports Chasers, man. And we'll just get into it, man. Growing up, and you grew up in Connecticut, right? You grew up how far in retrospect? Because I think me and you talk. How far from the city, from New York City?
Yeah, I grew up in Eastern Connecticut, so kind of on the Rhode Island side.
Okay.
It's really rural. It's farm towns. I grew up in a town where the only restaurant was at the car dealership.
Jeez.
But I went to high school in the inner city, so I kind of got to experience the best of both worlds.
Okay. And what is your passion for sports? Where did that develop at?
Man, I've loved sports from the moment I picked up a ball. I played a lot of football growing up, a lot of baseball, basketball, everything really. But, it wasn't until after high school I found rugby. I had been the captain of my high school football team. I was, a safety, and I was a long snapper. And, I realized that my skill set, being more of a distance runner, was a lot more aligned with rugby, and also the dexterity thing. Like I can pass and kick really well. So once I found rugby, it was a natural fit. And I will say this, you get a lot of skills that transfer from football to rugby and vice versa.
Right.
But one thing that people don't really think about, which is really my secret potion, is that long snappers are basically passing a rugby ball, and they have to do it with precision every single time. And so it was so much easier for me to pick up a rugby ball and figure out how to do a long pass because of those years of snapping to punters and field goal kickers.
Wow, that's I didn't even know how it translates that. I know very little about rugby. My other co-host Da, he'll be on in a second as he works out those kinks. He'll probably be more be able to relate, man. But nah, that's great that you got into rugby. So you went from rugby. Tell us about your rugby journey.
Yeah. Like I said, the moment I touched a rugby ball, I knew that I was pretty good at it. My position was fly half, which is basically the quarterback. You do all the passing, all the play calling, all the kicking. You're kind of the maestro that orchestrates a symphony. It's a team sport with as many as 15 people on each side, which means the best communicator is often the most important player, and that's typically the fly half. So we had a lot of success. I went to Central Connecticut State University. We went to 4 title games during my time there and won 3 of them.
Hmm.
Um, we took the number 3 team in the country. I scored twice right at the gate of the game, and took them to the edge of we're basically trying to make it the Final Four in Denver, Colorado. And we lost to the number 3 team, but we fought hard against them. And then the following spring, they set up a cup championship for all the different universities in Connecticut. And UConn was obviously the powerhouse. They were the only one that was Division One.
Right.
I had all these friends on the team, and I actually, during the off season, I would go and practice with them. So I wore a UConn Rugby Suck shirt to warm-ups, and we ended up beating them. We went to the championship, and I scored 4 times, assisted a bunch more, and won the MVP of the tournament. But what I didn't know was that there was the head coach of a premier rugby team in attendance, and he recruited me to go play for them alongside guys that had been on Team USA or represented Fiji, on the world circuit, or all these different countries. I was really one of only 3 Americans on the team.
So this is professional rugby, correct?
No, one level below this. When I was coming out of college, there wasn't professional rugby in America.
Mm.
It was pretty chaotic, and it was like the Wild West. You'd have venture capitalists who are just paying people from different countries to come in and play and hold a job with their firm. But I had ambitions to play for the national team, and there were talks of the Major League Rugby starting up. It ended up starting up in 2018. But what happened was I ruptured my patellar tendon when I was 24, and it's an injury that happens once for every 147,000 human years.
Wow.
And this past April, it actually happened to me for a second time. So I've done it twice, which has odds that are similar to discovering life on other planets. But the first time I ruptured my patellar tendon, that was the emergence of my undiagnosed bipolar. I went manic, and I quit rugby, quit my job, moved to Idaho, and I just found all these distractions for all this time to basically try and run from the fact that I didn't understand what was going on with my emotions. And I stayed away from rugby for a while, but what happened was I attempted suicide. I tried to hang myself in 2021, and the next week I was invited to a rugby party.
Hold on, hold on, Tyler. Let me just back up here before you get there. Explain to the people. Some people might not know what is manic. What is manic?
Yeah, good question. So when you go manic, typically something traumatic has happened to ignite it. You act irrationally. Your brain thinks very fast. You talk very fast. You get feelings of grandiose. You might think that you're going to change the world.
Right.
You don't see risk in anything. You just see a goal. And, that lack of risk tolerance, gets you in trouble at some point because, you're going to not sleep or do anything until, you achieve this goal. And your way of doing that is through the most risky behavior you can possibly imagine. You don't know you're manic when you're manic. You think you're finally standing up for yourself.
Right.
And it takes other people to kind of intervene. But when you're undiagnosed, no one's going to intervene really.
Gotcha. So this is the so when you what was that event? So you would say that your injury was
Yeah.
trigger of that.
Yep.
Gotcha. How long? So you not one. Well, you said this is the first time you got injured, correct? Playing.
Yeah.
All right. So you got injured, and so go ahead, carry on.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of threw rugby out of my life. I had high ambitions to play at the highest level, but
Right.
when I ruptured my patellar tendon and went crazy, I threw all that out. There was something deep inside of me that still wanted to prove what I could do on the rugby field, but it sat dormant for a while. I didn't take my rehab seriously. I didn't, do much strength training because I had thought my career was over. But I got into long distance running, and I actually won a 5K and ran a marathon. And so rugby was kind of completely out of my life.
Right.
And then, you know, like I said, I life got pretty bad and I attempted suicide. Um, Basically had a noose around my neck, looked out the window, the clouds parted and the sun came out. And in that moment, I realized that one of my best friends was getting married the next day. So I might as well stick around a little longer. And like I mentioned, a week later came the party with all my old rugby friends,
Mm-hmm.
who hadn't seen me in years, who had previously thought of me as, their captain behind all these championships that, had endless confidence. And, I was so ashamed of who I was because I was coming off a suicide attempt and I hadn't worked in a year. But I went to this party. I forced myself to. They tossed me this rugby ball. All those feelings of like competitive spirit and pride and passion come back. And they invite me to an exhibition match the following week. They tell me that our old college coach is now their men's team coach for the Hartford Wanderers. And so I go to the game. I'm wearing jeans. I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to watch my four friends play and then get out of there. But my coach's wife was in the stands next to me, and she had been like a great source of confidence for me in college. And she encouraged me to go back onto the field or to play again. And then when an injury happened with about 10 minutes left in the game, somehow I ran onto the field. And the first time I touched the ball in 5 years, I assisted the game winning score. And then all of a sudden rugby was back into my life. I worked hard to get back onto the field, got injured again, and, ended up the very next day getting a job coaching the Eastern Connecticut State University women's rugby team. So that was kind of my for coaching.
Congrats. That's good.
Yeah, thanks. It didn't turn out so well.
Go back on the field with your jeans on? With 2 minutes left?
No.
You did take your
No,
jeans off.
Okay. Someone gave me their rugby shorts and I wore those.
I bet. That's good, man. Good stuff. I was about to curse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got 2 more minutes. But so you was working also during this period, correct?
On and off.
On and off.
With bipolar, you tend to work really hard and well for a while, and then it just blows up in your face. When I attempted suicide, I wasn't working, but for much of the last decade, I was working in cybersecurity sales, which is kind of where I got my source of confidence when I wasn't on the rugby field.
Gotcha. So cyber security.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, you just all out just quit. All right. So
Yeah.
you get back into rugby. You're feeling it now. You got a second chance. Carry on with your story.
Yeah.
The story is amazing. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, I wanted to play. I felt like my record as the starting fly half, like being the leader on the team. I was like 36-3 all time. In my mind, I was the GOAT, and I never got that chance to prove it because of what happened to my knee and then what happened to my mind. But I was playing basketball end of the summer, right before the first game, ready to be the fly half for the Hartford Wanderers. and I sprained my MCL. And like I said, the coaching job at the university 8 minutes from my house opened up the very next day. And so I take this job, and I've never coached before. I haven't had human connection, especially not female human connection, in 5 years. And all of a sudden, I'm in charge of 30 college women. And so I'm working at this time a different job as well. And I pull 2 all-nighters in a week to get all my accreditations, to get, my sexual harassment training and everything figured out. And I make it in time for the first game. And, we had a good season. I found that I was a good coach. I got them really into film, and they became students of the game. I was doing well with cryptocurrency, and I bought them all equipment and balls and books and tournament registration fees and all kinds of stuff. And, I felt like I was a really good coach. And, the energy around the team was just, so electric. And so we end up losing our last game of the regular season to Tufts University, 31-0. They had defeated their opponents a total of 131-7 over the course of the season.
Wow.
And we go into their house at Tufts with all of their fans. And, like I said, we studied their film. We knew every single player, what their tendencies were, what they were capable of. And we crushed them. We beat them 29-10. We won the conference championship. And,
Good stuff.
yeah, it was a great feeling, especially being the first coach and like starting the first year of coaching and starting, right before the season started.
If I may ask, Tyler.
Yeah.
Usually, and this is just from other sports, like, so you were a great player. Your transition into being a great coach, how did you do that? Did you, kind of push your greatness on to the girls, or was it really, like you said, something like you had to teach them? Well, they were college athletes, so they were already good, but, maybe film study and different ways of how did you reach them as a great player?
Yeah. I think that I'm a great player because I'm the smartest player on the field. And to play fly half, you have to be the smartest player on the field. And you have to know what everyone else's role is, and you have to be an effective communicator. And, I see coaches all the time who played positions where, their line of duty is not very wide. Like, think of an offensive lineman or something like that. He's not going to be able to identify or coach talent, in the running backs or in the defensive back line. Right. And it's similar with rugby. That's why you see a lot of former quarterbacks become head coaches. So that was it. But, what was a really kind of what really helped us was I had a 6-foot tall whiteboard. And every day before practice, I would basically, draw out the plays. I would, outline what each person's responsibility was. And we called it chalk talk. And, it was a way to educate these players and make the most out of our time. And, besides that, I think I just made a fun culture where everybody was bought in. People were going early to practice. People were watching film on their own. We were so committed that they kept practicing a month after the season to train for a tournament that I paid for out of my pocket. Nobody wanted the season to end.
So you changed the whole atmosphere.
Yeah.
That's
yeah. Well, wait till you hear about the downfall.
Yeah, D, there's more.
Yeah. So during that off season, I tried to start a cryptocurrency company. It's basically a decentralized autonomous organization, which is more or less a fan-owned professional rugby team. By this time, in the 4 years that I had been away from rugby, the Major League Rugby had come about. And, I had missed my shot, but, I still thought that I could make an impact. So I created this crypto project. I got a bunch of a Mexican national team player and the head coach of University of Kentucky and a bunch of other big names in rugby to kind of, vouch for me. And I went to the largest cryptocurrency conference in North America, pitched it to all these, wealthy venture capitalists and technologists who, could take my platform to the next level. And I went manic while I was out there. The excitement just turned this switch in my head. And, I started to get that grandiose feeling that I was going to change the world. And I wasn't thinking rationally at all. And I went home and I trusted this guy online with my cryptocurrency wallet password. And he stole $450,000 from me. So I was devastated. And, we had an indoor practice scheduled for the next day. And I was still manic. I was still out of my mind. And I obviously wasn't thinking straight. I had just been dealt a huge traumatic blow, like while I was not in the right frame of mind. So I go to practice, and it's the first time ever I yell at these girls. I'm disorganized. I'm incoherent. I'm just a mess. And, there were 3 new players in attendance, and, the existing players were like, I can't believe you chose this day to, mess up. But there wasn't like a big, like, come to Jesus moment or anything like that, like a big blow up at that practice. That came a couple days later, where the team president, the team vice president, the secretary, and the treasurer had me come to their meeting. And they basically just spent 45 minutes just like bad mouthing me and, going, over the top at me. And, I was really pissed off. I went out after that with my friends, and I texted the team president. I didn't say I quit. I said, start looking for a new coach. And I just wanted her to say, like, look, like, this has gone too far. We just won a championship. We value you. We respect you.
Mm-hmm.
I had felt so slighted by the way they treated me that I felt the need to say something.
Right.
The next week is spring break. And so we don't talk for a few days. And, I end up texting the team president, and I say, hey, I'm ready to go to practice on Monday. I'm ready to move forward. And she said, Tyler, you're no longer our coach. And I said, what are you talking about? She said, we found a coach. What I didn't know was that their old coach had been forming a coup to try and get rid of me. He had taken a job at a higher paying university and realized that it wasn't a fit and tried to get his old job back.
Now that you built the team up.
Yeah. And, I'm still manic. I'm still crazy. This job had become my life.
Right.
It was these people had become my community, and now I was feeling betrayed by them. And, this was only 8 months after my last suicide attempt. And, I texted one of the girls on the team, and I said, if I'm not your coach, I might do something to myself. And they ended up reporting that to Human Resources, launched an investigation. And, I basically was like, look, if I quit now, can I quit in good standing so that I can coach elsewhere? Because if you get fired, no one wants you, especially
Right.
from a university.
Understood.
So they were like, yeah, like, you'll never be able to work here again, but like, we won't put anything against you on your record. I was like, all right, great. So I spent the next 6 weeks in complete suicidal depression. Like, if I was walking my dog, I would look into the woods and I would just see myself hanging from trees. I would keep rope in my room in case I was ready to step off the chair one night. It was literally the only way I could go to sleep was if I had rope in my room.
Wow.
And, I pretty much just laid in bed. I read a lot. Like, I escaped to someone else's world so that I didn't have to be in mine. But after like 6 weeks, that depression gave way to a manic episode. And I decided in that moment that I needed a new coaching job so that none of my friends would realize what happened, you know. And so I got in my car. I just decided to drive south. I stopped in Nashville, played for the Nashville Grizzlies rugby team with my old college roommate for a week. Played against the Lexington Blackstones. Had a great time, and then I kept driving to Memphis. And Memphis had this grassroots, the largest inner city rugby program in the country, 600 rugby players, all U19, and it was a really inspiring, team that they had put together. And I interviewed for it, and at this time, Memphis was the murder capital of America. Orange Mound, the first neighborhood by the black man for the black man, was the neighborhood that I'd be coaching. So it was completely different from Connecticut for sure.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. And so I was all about it. I thought it was a great opportunity, not just to impact these young individuals, but also to change my life and to get me out of my comfort zone. And I was really excited about the opportunity. But when I moved down there, 4 days after, I woke up and had this enormous panic attack. And I just, my psychiatrist had given me 3 months supply of all my medications. So I just started gobbling these pills like dozens at a time. And, I was like, all right, I need to drive home now to Connecticut, like 1,800 miles away. I was sweating. I was like in tears. I was like freezing cold. What I didn't know was I was suffering from severe serotonin syndrome. And I didn't make it home. I had to fly home, and my dad had to fly to Knoxville to drive my truck home. And then I was just hospitalized for three nights with trying to treat this serotonin syndrome. And when I got out, I was completely lost in life. I spent the next month as suicidal as can be. And finally I got some coaching from my psychiatrist. I went to the Hartford Hospital ER, and I was just like, look, all I want to do is kill myself. I tried it already. I'm going to try it again. Can you help me? And they're like, yeah. So I spent a few days in like the purple wing, which is basically, schizophrenics and narcissists and addicts and homeless people just going crazy. And I had a curtain for my bed, but because I was suicidal, they didn't let me close the curtain. So it was pretty brutal, but eventually, they transferred me to, the oldest mental hospital in New England, the Institute of Living. And that's where, I learned of my diagnosis, and I finally healed. And I'll pause there. I've been talking for a while.
Well, that's a lot, man. And first and foremost, I want to commend you on
Yes.
getting help, kind of understanding, what was going on and getting the diagnoses and letting the doctors help, right? Because a lot of times, I guess within those episodes, folks don't let the people that can help them. I mean, you hit a critical mass, of course, and I'm glad, just meeting you that it did not go the other way. So that's part one. Two, that's a hell of a name, the Hospital for the Living. That's, I mean, listen, like it's a dope name, right? Because that's what it's about, is living. It's, most hospitals are about the dead, right? So they're in the business of dead in most other hospitals, right? So, yeah, I think that's so positive, man. That you made it past that, right? Outside of rugby, even though that has, and it seems like was a respite to you, but it was a temporary respite, until you get you right, right? So
Yeah.
it seems like, as you're doing that, I'm really interested in hearing, what your plans are for the rest of your story. Because like now it's like I'm guaranteeing you'll be a super effing coach, and mentor, not just a coach on, right? You can help kids because you're old now, so I'm just gonna call you old, right? College students, whatever, 19U leagues. You're not only able to teach them the positions, what they need to do, where they need to go, and how they do it on the field, but what they need to do, where they need to go, how they need to do it off the field, right? So when things go wrong, too much homework, this happens, your girlfriend leaves you, this, that, the third, you can give them at least a cautionary tale, as to not to let yourself, if you can, because it's not always your fault, right? Sometimes these manic things happen. But how to see things and how to move through them, or at least some point try to travel your way through them to a good place where you can get help. So I commend you on that, brother. Believe me, I really do.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like I said, when I first met you and you told me some of the story, I was like, man, how does a person keep getting up and getting down from that? And I alluded to earlier, like my favorite word is resilience. And what is resilience? It's just simply getting up after you got put on your butt, and you continue to keep doing that. And with the love of rugby and love of coaching and love of, I guess, mentoring people, even with all that you got going on, man. And like I said, I commend you, but as Da said, you still have more, so go ahead.
Yeah. Before I keep going, I'm gonna read this short essay that I wrote. Right after I ruptured my patellar for the second time. It's called "My Resilience." I'm in the best mental headspace of my life, so I suppose you can say that this injury had great timing. I have found laughter and beauty in the world again. When you've had a bedside manner for 6 months, whereas the only comfort to get to sleep at night is when there's sufficient rope nearby in case you're ready to step off the chair. If you can beat that shit, get a great job at a great company in the career you cause so much damage to. If you can beat that shit, have the courage to step on the rugby field and make an impact, even though it's been so long, even though you're clinically insane, even though you have one knee, now zero. If you can beat that shit, you do not care what others think of you, and you're not afraid of a goddamn thing. I will be just fine, thanks, but I appreciate all of your support.
Yeah, that is dope.
Here. And you said one knee?
Now I have none. And I'll get to that in the second part of this story now.
Oh, well, yeah,
if you
I
don't.
only got one too, so we're all good. One of mine is, I got one titanium and one that it hates, that hack squats is a bitch.
Yeah,
I got one.
definitely.
The hack squats is a bitch. The leg sled is a bitch. But my left knee though, titanium, all good. All good.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I went to the mental health hospital, and when you're an inpatient, you don't go there to heal. You go there so that they could stabilize your condition, so that you're not a threat to yourself or anybody else.
Yep.
When you're an inpatient, you don't really go outside at all. You do when you go to outpatient, but when you're an inpatient, there's really nothing to do. No one's talking. Everyone's too traumatized to really speak. There's a lot of people with like schizophrenia, or like I said, narcissism, or my roommate had aphasia. Aphasia is when you can't speak because of one trauma or another. And after several days, I got him to speak, and we formed this friendship. And I was inspired by him. I was inspired by people that had been through much worse circumstances and struggles than I had been through. And it reminded me of the blessings that I have in this life. Like, I come from a wealthy family. I'm white. I'm educated. My mom taught me how to read at an early age. I'm good looking and I'm athletic. And those things give me confidence that, some people just don't have. And so what I realized is that a lot of the people I was institutionalized with are going to be ashamed of who they are, or they're not going to be capable of telling their story. And so I felt like it was my responsibility to all of them, to the people that suffer like I suffer, to come out and write this book, and, to tell the truth and to break the stigma, and stop getting it treated like taboo, but I didn't know how to do that at first. I wasn't a writer. I got a job at the largest cybersecurity company in the world, and I started to get my life together. And in 2023, I didn't have a single manic episode. I was on lithium now, which saved my life. And, I was working hard to get back on the rugby field. I thought that 2024 would be the year that I finally showed the world what I could do. I felt like I still have it and everything like that. But the second game of the season this past spring, I ruptured my second patellar tendon. Right. Like I said, something that happens once for every 147,000 human years, and it happened to me twice. And, I went manic again because of that. But this time, that mania turned out to be a good thing because I was just laying in bed and totally crazy. And I opened the notes app on my iPhone and I just started publishing my life story to Instagram. And, then I made a mistake and I had to go to the hospital for a while. But when I came out, I had all of this great feedback and all of these, old friends and, young rugby guys who are a decade younger than me, like saying how much they loved hearing about it and how they had no idea what I was going through and all of that. And so once I got better, I sat down and I finished the book. And, I'm pretty proud of it, right? Mania can go a lot of bad ways, but,
Right.
In some ways, mania can be a superpower because I never would have wrote this book without it.
It pushed you.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So you said that there was a great response, and you helped a lot of people with your book, I'm sure. So as this goes on, do you still get letters and do you still get folks like, reaching out to you for advice now, even now after the book is out, kind of like, hey, look, this is what I'm going through. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that, I like I said, bipolar is tough to diagnose. There's a lot of
Right.
undiagnosed bipolar people running around. I've had guys message me saying, I think I have this too, and now they know how to move forward.
Right.
I have other
Right.
guys who, know they have bipolar and they've been institutionalized multiple times and they're struggling.
Right.
But they look at me as a source of inspiration. They look at me as the other side of bipolar, the
Right.
side that made it. And that's a big responsibility for me to hold up to because I have this thing for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I'm not suicidal now, but I have suicidal thoughts every single day. I'm a substance abuser. I need drugs to get through my life, or at least that's the way I perceive it, because 65% of bipolars are substance abusers, right? So life isn't perfect for me, but having writing and being able to share it with the world and try and make other people not feel so alone, that has filled, that void that I was trying to find in rugby and I was trying to find in work,
Right.
coaching,
Right.
right? Now that I have writing, who's going to take my pen away? You can take my job away. You can't take my pen away. And so I have writing for the rest of my life, no matter what happens to my knees or my mind.
Understood. And I think that's big, that replacement. And I for most athletes of any sort, that one moment in time that you are the dude, I guess, we always try to harken back to grab a piece of that, and when you can't grab it anymore, and I'm older than you, there are times when you think about that, but you found a way to get past that, man. A few times, and like Kev said, resiliency, right? So you've had the jobs, and you're going to continue to, because you're a smart dude. You're going to keep doing what you do. As long as you're in the right space, you're going to succeed, because that's what you're used to doing, and I think that's what's going to really help people understand. Listen, I'm not going to be great every day, because Captain America is not great every day. Sometimes Steve Rogers fucks up. But at the end of the day, the point is that his mission is to be the best he can every day. And you could take from that what you like, but I think that's what we're all as human beings need to do. So yeah, I'm 100% behind you, brother.
Man, it's such an inspiration. Let me just share that with you. Those that are looking at this and those that are on the sound of my voice, the link will be in the description, man. But I got a QR code. Those that are watching on Facebook, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, or any one of those platforms, and
Buy the book.
buy the book, man. Buy the book. Buy the book, and it's right here up in this upper right hand corner. Let me just put it out there for those that can see. I had his website up there. It's right. It's right there. It's right there on Amazon. So make sure y'all check out my main man, Tyler. What are you doing today now? What are you doing to make sure that you're on the right track, and what are you doing to occupy yourself?
Yeah, look, that competitive spirit in rugby is never going to go away. And,
Yes.
the good thing, and maybe you can't tell because of my knees, but the good thing about being a fly half is that, your brain and your hands are the most important thing. Like a quarterback, you can play for longer than other positions. So I'm grinding, in the weight room, on the track, kicking. I'm trying to get back onto the field, and I'm still a little ways away. But I'm working harder than I ever have. And I think that, if I can go through a season without injury, it's gonna be awesome. So that's a big part of my life. Obviously promoting this book, trying to sell this book, trying to do book readings. And I've got a second book in the works. It's kind of like that short essay I shared with you guys earlier.
Right.
It's just, I've kind of realized that, so many Americans want to hear my story, but they're not the type of person that can read a full book. So, I've broke down about 100 short essays. They're all 1 page long. Some are about mental illness, some are about addiction, some are about sports, everything. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to take my time with it, though. I want it to be really good. So I'm doing that. And then the last thing that I'll share with you guys, it's hard to make money as a writer out there.
Yeah.
But, you try and find something that no one's ever done before or really pursued. And what I realized, just having lost loved ones, that obituaries are really kind of just who they were, like where they lived, who they loved, how old they lived to. It doesn't
Right.
tell their life story.
Right.
And the best stories in the world are lost with the people that pass away. You have grandkids that don't know a damn thing about their grandfather.
Very true.
Right? And so what I'm trying to do is basically partner with funeral homes and families of the deceased to write something that's like 6 to 8 pages long, a short story about their life so that it can be appreciated by, a dozen or so family and friends.
That's
So I'm
cool.
excited about that.
That's cool. That reminds me. There's something that I can't remember. I just listened to it when I drove to work early in the morning on one of those stations where there would always be like uh, like a grandfather would be talking to their kid about how it was in the '60s, right? The kid would just ask their grandpa, in the '60s, and they would just tell a story, not too long, but say, look, this is the way my life was. Just so it was out there, and I guess it gets held in the Library of Congress, where people can go and listen to it and whatever. And I think those stories will help a lot of people because we're all kind of connected in this great big rock at some point in time. So your story connects to someone else, and it could be a guy in the hood that's playing basketball. It doesn't have to be a rugby guy. It could be,
Right.
the lessons that you're imparting, as well as the lessons from other folks' lives, that they're putting out there. I've heard lessons from people I have no idea who they were. I've just listened to the stories. I'm like, oh, that helps, because it does. If your mind is open, everything can help you. So yeah, that's a great idea, man. I want to hear about that one. So when I get rich, I can put I don't have any crypto, but I am in IT. So I am in IT. So maybe I'll get some money managing security project, and I'll have some dollars to put into it with you, man. So yeah, I'm definitely interested in that.
Cool.
Tyler, you gotta when you get back on the rugby field, you gotta come back and tell us your story, man, and tell us about that second book, man. So
Yeah.
make sure we keep in touch, man. And like I said, this has been an inspirational story. If I haven't heard of one, like I said, the fact that you keep getting up and getting up after you keep getting knocked out, shows a true testament to your will and you just wanted the will to live. And despite all the other misgivings that have gone to you as far as your condition of with, being bipolar, and also you being a testament to somebody else saying, "Hey, if Tyler's going through it, man, I can do it too, man." So thank you so much for.
Hey, we can't leave yet. I got rugby questions, man.
Okay, go ahead. Well, yeah. Well, your
Dude,
thing was messed up in the corner.
yeah,
Go ahead.
we're not bouncing out of here without, All right, so you played 15s, right? Rugby 15s?
Both 15s and 7s.
Okay, so in 7s, right? So in 15s, the fly half is behind the scrum half, right?
I told
Yes.
you had questions.
In 7, where does he line up at?
Same thing. There's just less people on the field. There's still, at the end of the day, you think about it as who's going to get the ball from the ruck and who's
Right.
the first receiver. The first receiver, the first person that receives the ball is the fly half.
Right. And then from there, you got, inside center.
Yeah.
Outside center. All right. So who gets cut out in 7s? Is it blindside flankers? Is it
everybody really. I mean, basically, you have a hooker and 2 props, but they're 7s players, and then you have a scrum half, a fly half, a center, and a sweeper. The sweeper plays fullback and wing.
Yes. Okay. All right. Yeah. Because I know that, like, globally, right? So I'm a global guy. So yeah, as you can see, I'm all over the place, right? So
the more traditional way of doing it, or the way that most pro teams do it, is kind of without positions. It's a 3-1-3. So you have 3 guys on one side of the field, 3 on the other, and 1 in the middle.
Okay. So if you were to have your dinners and say, okay, we're gonna try to take over America, right? What style of rugby would you suggest? And why?
Yeah, that's tough. 7s is what's offered in the Olympics. So, that's because the games are 14 minutes long. It's action packed. There's lots of scoring, and it's easy to sit down and watch a game or two.
So does that hurt rugby union?
That's 7s.
Oh, okay. So rugby union is 7. What's the other one? Hold on. Rugby
15s is rugby union. 7s technically follows union law.
Right.
And rugby league is something different altogether. That's similar to football.
Okay, cool. Gotcha. Yeah, that's what I'm just trying to figure out exactly, like, where, because I know there's a lot of rugby played there. Like, there's a rugby team in Manhattan.
There's like 7.
Yeah, well, like when I was a kid, like in the 80s, I knew some weird dudes that played. Not me, wasn't one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But no, they were guys that played high school ball in the city, and they had an itch, and I guess somebody talked to them, and then they started playing rugby. And I was still in high school, and I was like, oh, no, I got my Rydell here. I'm going to keep my Rydell on. You can go do that foolishness. Because I got equipment. But I've always thought, like, what could be done, because as we talked about before the show started, how much more that would help the NFL from a grassroots perspective if kids kind of played rugby young and then got into the NFL later. They would know how to hit. They wouldn't have their heads down. There are certain things that happen because it happens so quickly in rugby that, like, you don't have like the 20, 30 yards to run up on a guy before you tackle them. Like, it's right there. Like, you get it, you swing it back, bam. If you don't make it past that guy, you're going to get walloped. So it's a different type of speed in the game. And I've always wondered why. Like, they're that, and of course, soccer, or football, like why, because it's like rugby is big, big, big all over the world. Like Japan is big, like it's big, man, everywhere but here per se. So, and it may be big here. It's just such a big country that you can't really, I guess they don't pull it all together, right? So they'll show Major League Lacrosse on ESPN 14, but you don't ever get to see like,
you got to get Peacock for rugby. Six Nations is starting this weekend. That's actually, if you want to check it out, like that's the best rugby, that I love to watch. All the Ireland and Scotland and everyone like that.
Now they're playing 15s though.
Yeah.
And they scrum up.
Yeah.
That humanity of death, which I would never do. So yeah, never do that. I did that one time. I'll show you my finger. Yeah. One time, man. One time I did that, broke my finger. So would never do that again, man. My high school coach was mad as hell. But yeah, it's that wasn't good. So yeah, cool.
I was like, it takes a special person to play rugby. So
shout
out to the both of y'all as I stuck to football and baseball. Tyler, this has been awesome, man. Thank you so much, man, for reaching out to us. Again, one of our guests on Pod Match. Shout out to our main man, Alex Sanfilippo, for the wonderful application that he has on there and just putting people together and matching people up. And like I said, Tyler, this is one of the best inspirational stories that we have had on this show. And, again, your resilience is awesome. DA, go ahead, sir.
Where are you living at now?
I'm in Columbia, Connecticut.
Okay, so you're back up top. Okay, question. Yeah. You want to play again, right? What's your timeline for coaching again?
What
because you're good at
I
that.
Can't wait to coach again. And even last night I was looking at open college jobs, in the area. But I still want to do it on the field. Like,
gotcha. No, that's fine. I just, maybe you say I'll play for 5 and then after 5 I'll coach.
So you still got the itch to go out there and play.
I got the itch.
Yeah, he got the itch to hit somebody and get hit. I don't know what the hell that's about, but yeah, I'm done with that shit.
Tyler, you got to, like I said before, you got to promise us to come on back and tell us how you did on the field at that second book, man, and keep us posted. Just want to go. Any parting shots or parting words for us? Any more words of inspiration before we get on out of here?
No, thanks to the sports chasers. I'm someone who's still chasing my sport. And I think, my story can, really resonate with everybody, right?
Yes,
everybody has to go through adversity. Everyone needs resilience. And I think, there's a lot of funny, little parts of my book along the way. So, right now it's #1 bestseller in 3 different new release categories on Amazon. So go and check it out. The Maniac with No Knees.
Well, one knee. You got one.
I got none.
Yeah,
I got my left that I ruptured and my right that I ruptured.
Okay, so you know what? Just those wraps that we wear to squat with.
Mm-hmm.
Just wear them in the game.
I already got one, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, he is Tyler Kania. He's the author again. What's the name of your book again?
The Maniac with No Knees.
The Maniac with No Knees, man. Round of applause.
Thank you, brother.
Tyler, thank you again, man. And we're going to get on out of here. On behalf of myself, I'm Kevin L. Warren, for the DA and our special guest today, Mr. Tyler Kania, man. This is the Sports Chasers podcast. Y'all be good, be great, be blessed, man. We'll catch y'all again. Peace.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Sports Chasers podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms, and connect with us on all social media channels for exclusive content and updates. We'd also love for you to join the conversation, share your thoughts, and become part of the Sports Chasers community. And remember to tune in next time for some more real sports talk. Until then, stay frosty.